of commitment, or maybe even I should title it fear of being indoors, or the fear of not being homeless. And of course, I should start this off by saying I'm not saying that that's why people are out here. Everybody's situation is different, but of course it all boils down to the breakdown in the family system. Because really nobody would be out here if it wasn't for the family system issues. Like a wise person once said, even with the vagabonds, the only people out here who are really happy are the ones who actually have families to go back to when things get tough, and they actually have money, and they actually really are out here because they want to travel, and not because they also just so happen to like nature. But still, the reason that they're out is because of only option, having to escape something, being dumped out. And honestly, I feel like the ones with families to go back to, that's very far and few. I haven't met any. But I also want to say that, like I've been saying, I've considered this my transitional period slash, what was I calling it? Wilderness season? That's what I was calling it. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, if you lay low till 18, you can't do anything till 18, then you're not really doing anything till, maybe mid-late 20s, because it's so, fear of commitment. And I'm not gonna lie, this does get dark because, while I was writing this, I started to, drift off into, some flashbacky type stuff. But I was trying to, get to the point of why, one of the reasons why many people just don't like indoors. Not that it's a choice, but the experiences that they had when they did have a quote-unquote home weren't good. Because, as people say, home is where the heart is, but most of us have never had our heart anywhere. And then also, it's really some stereotypical stuff with it. I've seen a lot of stereotypes that people have had about my situation, even things that people who are out here have tried to project onto me based off of their specific situation or how they feel about their situation, and telling me that I'm going to eventually be depressed even if I'm not now, and that I just don't feel bad about my situation because I'm still young and I'm still a kid, but when I'm older, they're saying it like I'm, I don't know, a newborn or something. It's like I've been saying, I didn't really even like to call this a situation. I mean, everything's a situation, I guess, but specifically, I didn't like to consider myself homeless because I consider this my transitional period, and I mean, I technically already always was before, but as far as being full-blown living outside, like I said, it was my transitional period, and I wouldn't even want to consider laying low necessarily homelessness, because I mean, you're still not even old enough to do anything. And honestly, even the whole 18 laws and 21, even that's really a lie, because like I've mentioned a couple times before, you're actually a federal minor till 26, but that's a whole nother video. But it's I have a lot of people that have tried to make me feel bad about it, or make me feel like I should be depressed, or I'm just lying to myself. Or people worry, and then they say different things that are kind of fear-mongery, but it's honestly, I feel like if anybody who isn't here from the evidence channels, of course they're gonna probably feel like staying outside is bad, but I also feel like people who haven't lived outside, people who don't like nature, people who feel like a bear is gonna come and attack them, or as soon as they step outside, a lion's gonna come bite their face off or something. Of course, they're gonna feel some type of way about my current situation, even though this is the most peaceful and safe my life has been. And of course, this isn't a long-term thing. It's really not. I mean, having a cabin somewhere off the grid would be good, but unfortunately, that's not what's happening right now. And it's like, people have this idea of homelessness that's really stereotypical. And it kind of reminds me of a video that I've seen pretty recently that I'll put in the description. And I know people are going to probably feel like it has no similarity, but it really does. Somewhere. At least the concept. So a dude in a wheelchair was talking about how it's actually rude to see somebody who has a disability and then say, dang, I'll never complain about my leg hurting again. Saying things like that. How people don't see that as rude, but that's the same way I feel with some of the things that people have said to me. Of course, people who have had certain experiences, they're going to feel really weary and all that. But I do think people should also know that fear and worry and anxiety is faith in evil. And I don't really get scared. In fact, something that I haven't mentioned probably since the evidence channels, actually no, I have mentioned it with racial stuff, but people actually tend to be scared of me. And I think it's due to a couple of different reasons. One, it's like, as people say, my aura and presence is just really not scary, but it's just like intimidating and loud to people. That makes people nervous. I have staring problems too. Sure, there's some racial stuff in there. And then with the whole homeless thing, people are going to automatically want to avoid eye contact with you because they feel like you're going to ask them for something or for food or something like that. Or they feel like you're probably crazy and on drugs. So now, and honestly, really throughout my whole life, people are scared of me. So actually, I have grown men run from me and stuff on a daily basis. Especially when they think I'm about to ask them for something for whatever reason. But of course, if I'm carrying a lot of stuff, that's going to like automatically look homeless. So people are going to automatically feel like, well, that person's coming, so maybe I should run because they may do something. It's honestly really messed up. But, I mean, people being scared of me can be risky, especially the situations with law enforcement and the racial ones. But also, people being scared can mean less risk for me as well. But yeah, people typically run from me, so there's that. Going back to fear mongering. So, there's just one thing that happens every time I go somewhere where, like, pretty much somebody will always approach me about how risky everything is, commonly warning me about themselves, especially law enforcement. And law enforcement really do it because they see me as a new homeless kid that may never leave, that's going to lose my mind out there and start doing drugs and be another person I have to deal with on a daily basis for the next 50 years. But anyway, so literally every time I go anywhere, I have people telling me about a whole bunch of bullcrap that's going to happen that never ends up happening. Warning me about themselves in a manipulative way or warning me about their own paranoia based off of things that have happened to them or that they feel might happen to them. And I'm not even going to lie, you really don't want to be a fearful person that's running around paranoid, because if you are, you're not going to get any sleep. And if you're going to be scared of anything, you should be scared of the police because they're your real risk and the people in quote-unquote functionist society. But more so law enforcement and these security companies. But I still wouldn't be scared of anybody. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not the one for being scared of people. And I also think that, like, growing up, pushing through in the family system that's definitely quote-unquote autistic, but also personality disordered, I could also say that I probably don't feel emotions the same way some other people do, so I don't really get scared anyway, but also I know that in the end the angels are protecting me and stuff. So then there's that. I really don't feel a reason to be paranoid, and like I said, I always camp places where people are not, and if possible I camp in like wooded areas, and I know even with that people will try to like fearmonger and start acting like a squirrel's gonna come bite your finger off or something. A whole bunch of crap that's really not gonna happen. And to be truthfully honest, people are more to worry about than the animals. But I mean, unless maybe you're like sleeping with bears or something, but I mean, that you can even figure something out for that. Honestly, the fear mongering you get after getting kicked out or leaving a bad situation is pretty similar to the fear mongering and even manipulation you'll get to try to get you to stay in bad situations, where people try to like get you to fear the unknown by telling you about how pretty much all the possibilities of different things that could happen, which are things you've most likely already been through. And people saying things like, well, what are you going to do? And they may even try to push the whole wait till 18 thing. But the thing is, there is no difference between a 17, 16, 18, 19, 20-year-old, any of that. There's no difference between any of that, other than maybe the little bit of legalities. Because a lot of people think that 18 is when like the ageism stops and things are going to change. Honestly, that's not true. You're still going to be seen as a kid. The only difference is that you can legally go to a shelter. And depending on your situation, you can't legally be forced back into your abuse situation. But I mean, even that's up in there, because really, your abusers can still do whatever they want to do if they really want to and have the money and power to. And if you're in a conservatorship, which is why you really should try to leave way before 18, before you get put in a conservatorship. But anywho, the point I was getting at though is that, I mean, if you leave at 18, you're still gonna just be like, it's still gonna be whatever. You're still gonna be like homeless for a little while. You could maybe possibly get a job, but like I said, the ageism doesn't stop. That doesn't stop till your 30s, somewhere in your 30s, like mid to late 30s. The Nova from Soft White Underbelly, she really understood that early, and I think so many people are like holding on to dear life till 18, to where they have this like idea of what things are going to be at 18, but they really won't. And if you could find out what to do and how to do it, and enough of what resources there are before 18, you can maybe jumpstart things at 18. But like, some people never find out about what little youth services there are, because they're really only in certain states. So some people never find out. Some people find out late, and by the time they even find out about youth resources, they're already about to age out of them. And also, when I say things don't change at 18, I'm not like pushing a little depression, unalive yourself, nothing's ever gonna get better bullcrap. I'm not talking about that. I just mean like, the situation is still gonna be the same. You're still gonna be homeless for a little while. Also figuring things out. But what you can do when depends on how quick you're able to get your vital records, if ever. Okay, so to start reading the notes, fear of commitment. Getting over fear of being indoors / housed. For some of us, outdoors has always been an escape, a sense of hope and peace and joy, a place where we could get a break. I personally always saw myself being an adventurer and living outside. Honestly, I always have been, to be truthfully honest, to explore. I even had magical thinking of finding a jungle husband. I probably shouldn't have put that on here. I always saw myself running away. Right as America starts to fall and the end times takes off. All of this since age 6 to 8. After running, I saw myself becoming an animal whisperer and losing my fear of the nearby lions. For most of us, running away, being kicked out, being discarded from the cash for kids system or people cash cow systems was our first sense of peace and hope and freedom. Still feeling subhuman and seen as quote unquote bad, crazy, and slow or retarded, as those seen as less than and on the bottom of the caste system are. And really, I meant that's how people on the bottom of the caste system or who were seen as less than are seen, but maybe I wrote that a little backwards. Anywho, but still, for the first time, many of us got sleep, even 8+ hours of it, food and more of it. We finally could think, breathe, process years of emotion, even while laying low till 18 plus from cops, which honestly, that's a very anxiety-ridden feeling, but still, you could be at so much peace at the same time. We have committed one of the most ultimate acts of bravery, justice, youth rights, and human rights. We ran away, no longer a slave, lab rat, experiment, torture pit. I could keep going. Unless caught and kidnapped by cops and sent back to where we ran from or were kicked out of. Or if the cops throw us back into the people cash cow systems or cash for kids system branches, like jail, or maybe you voluntarily go into the homeless industrial system or complex. And the next thing, it's indeed very freeing. For me at least, it's the safest I've been. While nowhere is necessarily safe, because of course, anything can happen anywhere, but it could, not it will. But like most of us out here, I've never had any good experiences indoors or a quote unquote home. I've never had a home. Many of us haven't. I've never had my heart anywhere. And like the detached feeling while being out here isn't a choice, we like the freedom. Waking up knowing I could go anywhere. Knowing I accepted the truth that there is no quote unquote help or system put in place to help to save anyone. So I and many others saved myself. Or I guess we saved ourselves. I was my hero. And Yahweh protected me the whole way. Also, all the preparation I had to go before leaving where I actually had to do even more research on the trauma symptoms, get over the cognitive dissonance, do more research on the spiritual side, the narcissism, or really all the labels. I had to do a lot of stuff before getting out here that I somewhat started at 8, kind of at 12 until I started getting put back to sleep, as I could say. And then again at 14, and that's when I really did it. And I really started really getting into things, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. I need to cut off all these fake people who don't give a crap about me that I shouldn't be talking to anyway, because most of them never liked me, so that's my fault. And honestly, they're more so the victim. But I had to stop worrying about all of them and really focus on myself and saving my own life. And so, yeah, there was that. And I'm honestly glad I did, because a lot of people, all they know is escape, but they don't work through any of the things that they need to. Because one, you're conditioned not to believe in any of that stuff. You're conditioned to not believe in the spiritual side of things or any of that. So, they don't even believe it's real, but then they come out here and they run right back into another abuse situation. Or they come out here and they don't even lay low how they should. They just get caught and sent back, and then things are worse. So, yeah. I chose life instead of letting others take advantage of and kill me. People try to fearmonger you into staying in abuse and SRA. They get you with the fear of the unknown. They want you to stay in constant torture in a deadly situation. They want you to worry about what could possibly happen if you leave while you're in a known dangerous situation because you're a quote-unquote child. But honestly, people always have an excuse no matter how old you are. And I mean, what even is a child? Because when I think child, I think of somebody that's like younger than 9. Anywho, or some other way of saying you deserve it. Because of course people see you as cash cows, punching bags, and sex slaves. Or they say fight for your life till 18. But of course, I mean, that's also what people would consider a quote-unquote child, even at that age. Especially if you're still living with your parents. I noticed that, like, no matter how old you are when you're a street kid, people will say that you're a child as, like, a way of trying to manipulate you back into your abuse situation. But other than that, people see street kids of any age as adults. It doesn't matter if you're 13 or 10. When you're not living with your parents, people feel like you should like have your quote-unquote SHIT together, as people like to say, and like you should have figured something out by now, even if you're not even an age where you could even like go get an ID or anything. People have this idea that like you should have done something by now, and it's really interesting. People expect more out of homeless youth than they do out of youth who live with their parents. Because like if you're living with your parents, people don't expect you to have a house and a car at 15. I mean, you can't even do that legally here in the U.S. So it's like a lot of the ideas people have in their head is really weird and crazy. But anywho, there's no difference in a 15 to 19-year-old or 16 to 21-year-old really, other than possibly getting rights at 18 plus to not be locked up for no reason or turn back in and to go to a shelter. If you leave at 18, you're still gonna be a homeless kid for a while, which many of us have been unknowingly hidden homeless for our entire lives, kicked out and bounced around to relatives and family friends' houses since infancy, foster care and other trafficking. Or maybe even you lived in a house where like the water didn't work, like you didn't have running water because the house was old. A lot of people are living in dilapidated buildings. A lot of people have apartments that don't have running water. The bathtub doesn't work. The HVAC doesn't work. The toilet doesn't work. That's actually a form of homelessness. And I didn't even know about the term hidden homeless till I became full-blown homeless. And once I found out about that, I actually found out that I pretty much had been homeless my whole life. And I know a lot of people who have, that are like just being thrown around by their parents to stay with cousins until they can't anymore, and then go stay with some family friend's house and sit in the house all day, and there's no food in there. There's a lot of people in situations like that, and they don't even necessarily know that they're actually homeless. And that's another funny thing, going back to the whole how homeless youth are expected to have more for whatever reason. But the thing is, somebody who's living with their parents is technically hidden homeless. I mean, of course, if they're not in a bad situation, then no, but like, it's still like, I mean, it's not necessarily your house, so it may not even necessarily be your parents' house. Your parent may be living with somebody, so whenever that person kicks them out, you're out too, so it's not your permanent address. Kind of like how because your parents are rich doesn't necessarily mean you're rich, because like there's people with rich parents but their parents don't even feed them. So yeah, they tell you that if you run you may get trafficked, essayed, and you've probably been there, done that thousands of times already. Oh, thousands of times over. everyone is minding their business when you're in your abuse situation, or they just tell you they don't care, or they pretend not to believe you because they get paid to help, of course, as Cash for Kids system, flying monkeys do, until you're ready to save yourself, or do save yourself, and you run. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants you to quote-unquote be safe, and everybody wants to tell you it, and everybody cares all of a sudden. Anywho, life is dangerous. But worry and fear is faith in evil. I fear no one. Grown men run from me on a daily basis. This is probably going to sound really bad, but honestly, all my videos probably sound bad. Going back to the before the part 1 channel. When I move, security takes 5 steps back. Unfortunately, most people avoid eye contact with me. Law enforcement and those in functional society, quote unquote, are risky, if anything. But living in fear and being scared to sleep isn't it. Because a lot of people say that, like, they can't sleep while homeless because they're scared to sleep because somebody may steal stuff from them and may rob them. Yeah, somebody may. And honestly, if you're in that close of proximity to other people, then you need to learn how to camp. That's the way I see it. And if you're going to be scared to sleep because of anybody, it should be because of security and law enforcement, not necessarily because of other random people, which you should be in the woods and in cities ever, unless for work or school. People will even warn you about animals, which people are more risky than the animals, and stay away from bear areas. But we escaped, so now what? At 18 to 21 plus, many get stuck on the freedom and peace, fall into more abuse or more abusers' hands out of desperation. Even people in their abuse situations with their parents will run to chomos. In fact, more often than not, a lot of the people that do that, well, I can't even put a number on it, but I would say as much people who are still living with their abusive families are dating chomos as people like who leave the situation. Some don't make it to 18. Some get caught and sent back, etc., etc., etc. My focus is going to be on the outdoor lifestyle. Aside from not really being able to do anything legally till 18, kind of 26, long story, many people's trauma symptoms make just moving on with their life and living a quote-unquote normal life and fitting in hard. Maybe you know the sickness of the systems and what tax money really goes towards, so you don't want to join into the systems that you don't agree with and the evil. Maybe you don't want to be a part of the cult of society, or houses affect your health. The mold, the loud electricity, the lead and asbestos. And for me personally, being indoors is where I've always been the sickest. Because most buildings have mold, and honestly that's part of why I have the issues that I have. Other than the iatrogenics, that's like the main thing. Oh, formaldehyde. Lead, asbestos, and formaldehyde, etc. makes many bedbound, autoimmune disorder, etc. Mold toxicity is no joke. Or they make you feel trapped and imprisoned all over again. The loneliness of the 4 walls. It reminds you of the torture, being neglected and alone. No trees or family to keep you company. For me, personally, apartments make me think of abuse. Houses in general make me think of abuse. The neighbors listen to you get beat on, and you hear the neighbors' kids get beat, essayed, or vice versa. Locked in closets, starved, Or, well, I guess you wouldn't necessarily hear somebody getting starved, but you hear them saying they're hungry. Or they'd hear you saying you're hungry. They hear your parents threaten to shoot you. You hear their parents threaten to shoot each other. Your parents hold you back and call you nosy. As the neighbor's kid screams and cries, she's trying to kill me. Because I used to have a video about this, but it got deleted during the whole CPS snitching thing. But there were a lot of situations where I would just do even little minor things to help people. Like, I mean, let's say a 6-year-old was like lost. They lost their parents. If I helped them find their parents, I would get in trouble for that. Because my mom hated helping people anyway. Like, one time a dude accidentally drove into like this river near the neighborhood, and I helped him get out and go to like the hospital and all that. And then I got in trouble for that. And before I got in trouble for it, my mom had ran and told psychiatrists about it and about how delusional I was. And it was a whole long situation. I used to have a video of some of that stuff and about some of it, but yeah, long story. Anywho, different things like that will happen really often. And I think part of the reason that, or at least part of the reasons the demons in her didn't want me to help other people is because they knew it would eventually lead to me saving myself. The one neighbor that calls the cops, that at least is willing to call the cops, does, because I'm starting to dissociate. Cops don't care and don't go in, and they're also scared to go in. In another situation, your other neighbor's abusive mom lies to cops about her to get her charged and kicked out. Your abusive mom finds out you're standing up for her and telling the cops the truth about the situation. Not that the cops care anyway. They don't care about either party, really. But they get paid to side with the abusers, of course. And that's what Freemasons like to do, of course. I said, of course, how many times? Okay, so, stand up for what's right. Your abusive mom pulls you away and says and tells the cop you're just autistic and to just not mind you. Another neighbor's kid, the same 5-year-old girl who was recently locked up with you, which I kind of had a memory of this while writing, because I forgot about this, and forced on psychotropic drugs, comes to your door. Well, the same girl that was locked up with me and her parents had gotten into a whole fight during like the family visit thing, because you could have visits at that specific facility. She came knocking on the door, begging for food. The same girl with the seeming to be crackhead mixed baby fetish parents. Common, broken YN dad who's mad at his mom and now hates quote unquote black women. And white trailer park trash mom stereotype. Their type that most white men wouldn't want. Homes where you're bullied, where your bullied SA neighbor hung herself at 7 or something like that. I don't think she was older than like 9. Supposedly hung herself anyway, to be truthfully honest, because I don't trust any of those Jezebelic women or men. Guy shot himself after locking himself in his trunk because none of his quote-unquote family or neighbors wanted to talk to him when he was sad and no one loved him. Your mom ignored your neighbor who almost died of a seizure because she thought that all the noise was just a domestic violence dispute and the lady was just getting beat on by her boyfriend, quote-unquote. And I could keep going, but I really shouldn't. Quote-unquote homes are where KKK, Aleister Crowley, Yummy Sanders, YNW Melly, and TK, etc. are made. Right? Absolutely not. But that's what you're told the homes are, and those are what you're told to stay in. And then another thing, other possibility. You don't believe you can do anything else because you've been convinced you're not good enough. Oh, fear. You were told you're under the bad, crazy, and slow category, so you may feel like you're not going to be able to work a job or do anything for yourself or never be good enough because, quote unquote, you're retarded or whatever you were brainwashing to believe in, or whatever symptoms you were brainwashing to take it on. And then another thing, not knowing what to do or how to do it. And that's a big issue. A lot of people have never really been taught anything. Like, I've met foster kids out here who just turned 20 and are finally learning hygiene. And then it's like, of course, your abusive relatives never taught you how to do anything that you're supposed to do, or quote unquote supposed to do, at least in the Matrix. So you don't really know what to do or how to do, and that could be a whole video of its own. And then another thing, fear of commitment and feeling trapped with long-term jobs and responsibilities, feeling trapped in a house or relationship. I could keep going on that, which honestly that goes back to generational curses. Really all of this does. Another thing is unaffordability, not having vital records, live life alone, or you don't know how you could. Why have money and no one to share it with? A house and no one to share it with, when no one loves you and you have no one to love. And you have no one to share love with. You lack motivation due to all of that. I'm hoping that this is coming out right because I can barely read this and I keep zoning out and stuff. So running is the only thing that ever worked. So all you know is to run. And a lot of people never stop running after the first run. Every time something bad happens, you run because it's the only thing that ever worked and it's the only thing you know. You don't know anyone else, anywhere else. No place to call home. Your heart isn't anywhere. You're just running. And some people never stop. I remember I even heard a story once of this dude who was in an abusive family system. He said one day he prayed and asked God why he was so sad and miserable in his life and situation until one day he ran away and he loved it and he never stopped running. And I mean, outdoors is good. And I feel like, though, you want to at least be living like somewhere where you could build a hut or something. But I also know that the isolation is very bad for you. And I've kind of been pretty isolated throughout my life, and I know how that's like affected me, but I also kind of feel like I was already pretty screwed up, so like I already didn't have people skills anyway, but probably shouldn't even go into that. Anywho, no family. I heard someone say that they ran away at, 14 or something, and they spent a lot of their early and late 20s living in the woods too. Because after being in a really bad abuse situation, it was just really freeing. Then another thing, cycles, traps, generational curses of immaturity, and trauma, lack, stagnation, and poverty, spirits and generational curses, vagabond spirit, kids out of wedlock, generational curses, marine spirits, those can affect finances, and so can spirit spouses. Some questions to ask yourself to know if you have these, which I know I do. You gotta work towards breaking them off, though. Just want to put that out there. But some questions to ask yourself: did your parents ever have anything of their own? No. Did your family constantly? No, let me not answer my own questions on camera. Or laugh at my own jokes, but I probably always do that. Did your family constantly struggle? Possibly. Okay, so, did your family constantly struggle for basic needs? And of course there's more questions you can ask yourself, but do some research on all of that. Were they schizo/unstable? Constantly getting fired, can't hold the job, won't, scared to try something new or different, or quote unquote strange because they want to fit in. They don't want people to laugh at them for trying to like find a new way to make money that's not something illegal or messed up. Can't ever seem to get jobs after Marine Kingdom dreams or spirit spouse encounters. Your situation is more spiritual than you think. Everything happens in the spiritual realm before the natural. Experience with the cult lady witch, or the Kundalini witch, or one of them anyway. When she was like, because I mentioned this before in a video, when she was like, God said he has a family for you, and you won't have to run anymore if you let us or join us or something like that. Now, of course, I'm not desperate enough for stuff like that, but a lot of people are, so what this made me think of when I was thinking of it again earlier was I thought being desperate is for people who want the power the easy way without doing the work. Or maybe not even the whole being desperate part. I think I kind of put that in there after the fact, but that's for people who want things the easy way. For people who want power the easy way without doing the work. Also, witchcraft is tied to rebellion, but I guess I wasn't even really thinking about the witchcraft part originally. I was more so thinking about the whole... No, I think I'm getting confused. But yeah, there's that.